What's up, everyone? I'm James Lynch. This is Early Look, a show where I take a look at an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to be looking at the UFC 273 welterweight matchup between Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns taking place at UFC 273. Before we dig into everything, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss updates on any of the content here on this channel. I'm posting stuff on here every single day, including videos like this. Okay, let's get into it. Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev, the highly anticipated fight. A lot on the line here, potential title shot for the winner. And let's go through some of the stats. This show is basically where I get an opportunity to focus on one fight, go in depth, give you an early preview of the fight, and yeah, give you everything you need to know basically about the fight. So like I mentioned, April 9th, the VyStar Veteran Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida is where this is going to be taking place. The key thing here is that it's only 3 rounds. A lot of people think of this fight maybe being 5 rounds because of how big of the matchup is. It's only 3 rounds. We'll talk about who that favors in a second here. And this is part of the card that's going to be headlined by Alexander Volkanovski and the Korean Zombie. Let's start first with Khamzat Chimaev. Let's dig into it here. So you look here at Chimaev, undefeated at 10-0. He's got 6 knockouts, 4 submission victories, 0 decisions. This guy does not get like getting paid by the hour. He's 27 years old. He's going to be 28 on May 1st, if you look at his birthday here. So there's about a 5-year age difference here between him and Gilbert Burns. So he's 5 years younger than Gilbert Burns. So that's one thing to sort of keep in mind from the youth standpoint. He's 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. So he has a 3-inch height and 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. So that's something to like. Of course, Chimaev has fought as heavy as middleweight. Burns has fought as light as lightweight. So that's one thing to keep in mind with this fight is the size discrepancy between both guys. Chimaev is a BJJ blue belt. He's currently number 11 in the welterweight rankings. He's a Swedish national gold medalist, and he trains at the All-Star Training Center, although he's been doing some training as well at Extreme Couture, like we've seen recently with Darren Till as well. He's had 4 fights at middleweight, 2 catchweight fights, and he's only fought 4 times at welterweight, which is interesting because even the last fight against Li Jingliang, he made weight, but it wasn't like a flawless, like step on the scale, everything's good. I know it was a bit of a struggle for him to make that weight class. Chimaev made his amateur debut in September of 2017. He made his MMA debut in May of 2018 and made his UFC debut in July of 2020, which is crazy to think because we're, just here in March of 2022. He is 5-0 in the UFC. Sorry, not 5-0. He is 4-0 in the UFC, if you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the UFC, all stoppage wins, all in the first round, except for they're all except for John Phillips. That was a second round finish. In terms of notable victories, he doesn't really have any in the UFC. In fact, you might have to go look at when he fought in Brave. He fought some guys that were a little bit better as far as the record goes, including Ikram, who's 8-0 at the time. That was a good win at 8-0. But, John Phillips, likely not in the UFC anymore. Reese McKee, not in the UFC anymore. Gerald Murshard. I mean, that is a good win, actually, considering what Gerald's done since then. Li Jingliang, he's been sort of up and down in the career here. But that's been one of the biggest criticisms of Chimaev is the lack of opposition. But that's not really his fault, right? That he has to fight who he's given. And like I said, he's only been in the UFC since July of 2020. He's never had any notable injuries. And obviously, he's never been in any close fights. So that's sort of the lay of the land with Khamzat Chimaev. We know he's going to take you down. He's got a great ground game. He's got good stand-up as well. We've seen some knockouts and some submission wins there, like I mentioned. 6 wins by knockout, 4 by submission. So he's good everywhere, and that's what makes him very dangerous in this fight is that, it doesn't matter where the fight goes. Chimaev's going to be comfortable there. His last fight was back in October of 2021. Not a huge layoff between the last fight and this one. Okay, let's get to Gilbert Burns right now. Great guy. Gilbert Burns, 6 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submissions, and 6 decisions here. I think people forget earlier in his career, well, not even early, his last fight went to a decision as well. He's 35 years old. He's going to be 36 in July. He's 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. We mentioned Chimaev going to have advantages in both the height and the reach. He's a 3-time world champion and World Cup gold medalist in grappling. He's number 2 ranked in the UFC welterweight rankings. He's a 3rd degree BJJ black belt, and he trains out of Sanford MMA. Burns made his amateur debut in July of 2011, made his MMA debut in January of 2012, and then made his UFC debut in July, I should say, of 2014. So you think of it there, Burns has been in the UFC 6 years longer than Khamzat Chimaev has. He's 13-4 in the UFC. He's got 7 stoppages. Some notable wins for Gilbert Burns. Let's look through them here. You can see there, he's beat Cowboy Oliveira very early in his career. If you remember, that was at lightweight right here, back in 2015. He also has wins over Gunnar Nelson, Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley, and Stephen Thompson. kind of looking back at Burns's resume here, you'll see that a lot of the wins he has are not really amazing wins, and it's not to his it's not to his detriment here. It's just that it's the reality of who you're given in a fight here. So you look at here, Christos Giagos, Andreas Stahl, who's not in the UFC, this Lucas Silwechki guy, Jason Sago, love Jason Sago, but I mean not an amazing win. Dan Moret, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. So you look at a lot of the names here, they're not really household names. I know Gunnar Nelson picked up a win a few weeks ago. Woodley's retired. Well, not retired, but he's left the UFC. Damian Maia's close to retirement or has retired. And then Stephen Thompson was sort of the beginning of the end for him as well. So, not a ton of notable wins in terms of what he has, but he's done so impressively in a lot of the fights. Now, some of his losses, Rashid Magomedov at lightweight, Michel Pereira, Dan Hooker knocked him out, if you remember, when in, I think, one of his last lightweight fights. So he knocked him out. And then his last loss since then was Kamaru Usman, where Usman actually finished him in the second round, or third round, I should say. Finished him with 34 seconds into the third round there. So he was finished in that fight. It was the first time that Burns had been finished in a fight since the Dan Hooker fight, which was back in 2018. So for the most part, Gilbert Burns has proved to be pretty durable, and that's one of the key things in this fight. Now, I did mention that this fight is 3 rounds instead of 5. Who does that favor? You'd have to think that favors Chimaev because he's not a guy that goes the distance anyways. So, I mean, if this was 5 rounds, if, somehow Burns survived the first couple rounds or whatever, you would have to favor him in the later rounds because he's been in those, types of situations where he's gone the distance before. Chimaev hasn't. In terms of the layoff for Gilbert Burns, this is one of the biggest that he's had in his career, and definitely the biggest in his UFC career. So you look at the win over Thompson, that was July of 2021. So it's going to be about 273 days since the last time he stepped foot in the cage. This fight's on April 9th. So that's a long layoff to have. And again, for a guy who's his age at 36, going to be 36 later this year, that's pretty tough to have. Now, I know there was a variety of reasons. Some fight fell out. There were some visa issues. There's a bunch of reasons why he didn't fight since then, but still, that's got to be a bit of a gap there, considering Chimaev fought in October. So that's something to keep in mind of. Now, in terms of the betting odds, I will show those right now. You look at it here, and I'm going to bring up a bunch of odds just to give you guys an idea here. Khamzat Chimaev, you'll see in most cases is, about a 5-1 favorite. And I get it. I mean, we've got some lines here, minus 600. So, understandably, that he's been such a huge favorite in a lot of his fights. But for this one, I'll be honest, it's a little bit surprising to see him this high, only because of the fact that it is such a jump from Li Jingliang for Khamzat Chimaev to Gilbert Burns. But I get it as well, because, you're seeing what's happened with Islam Makhachev, similar styles in terms of, taking you down, grappling you, submitting you, and in Chimaev's case as well, knocking you out. So Chimaev's dangerous everywhere. And then you look at a guy like Darren Till, who's a regular middleweight, working with Chimaev and just talking about how good this guy is. You hear guys like Alexander Gustafsson raving about Chimaev as well and how good he is. And we've seen the product of that in the cage with what he's been able to put together in terms of some quick wins that he's had, knocking out Murshard as quick as he did, finishing Reese McKee. There's just a lot of evidence of him just being a finisher, and Burns has been finished, right? Like Dan Hooker finished him. Now, granted, I think the weight cut played a big role in that loss to Dan Hooker, but still, that's a pretty good, that's something to sort of make note of here. Again, I think the odds are a little high just because of, you got to look at Burns. He's been in the UFC for a while. He's also good everywhere. He's got knockout power. He's got a good ground game. We talked about the credentials as far as his grappling and jiu-jitsu. So that's a little bit interesting, but I kind of agree with the odds at the same time. Like this, it kind of seems like the way things are going. And not only that, like the size discrepancy, Burns has fought at lightweight. I mean, that obviously wasn't the right class for him. He was cutting too much. At welterweight, I mean, I don't think the size has been that obvious, right? Like he's fought guys that are definitely bigger than him and he's beat them. But also, you got a guy in Chimaev who could easily fight at middleweight, right? He has fought at middleweight a number of times, like I talked about there. So, the size and strength is going to be a role in this one. He's also got the height and reach advantage. He's also younger. There's a lot of reasons to like Khamzat Chimaev in this fight, and that's actually who I'm going to go with for my pick in this fight. I think what's going to happen in this matchup is I think Burns will survive the first round. I think Chimaev's going to take him down. He's going to work his magic, but you're fighting a world champion in grappling and jiu-jitsu in Gilbert Burns, so it's not going to be that easy to take him out that early. But I do think what will happen is Chimaev will perhaps keep this on the feet, wear Burns down with some shots, and then in that second round, you're going to see Chimaev really take over and swarm him. I think he's gonna overwhelm Burns with the takedowns, with the relentlessness, and I think he's going to get like a TKO finish over Gilbert Burns. He could get the submission. You never know. Maybe to prove a point, being like, look, like I don't care how good your jiu-jitsu is, I'm going to go out there and submit you. But I think more likely than not, I think you're going to see Chimaev get a TKO win. Either way, I think Chimaev wins this inside the distance. If you want some better odds here, look at the inside the distance prop. I'd be a little weary to go submission or knockout, just because Chimaev, you never know what he decides to do, because he's done both, right? He's knocked out guys and he's submitted guys, like we saw against Li Jingliang as well. But I do agree that Khamzat Chimaev will probably win this fight. And I'm telling you guys, and I think this is pretty much common knowledge, if Chimaev wins this fight, he's getting the next title shot. Like, I know Burns and, Usman and Edwards is not confirmed yet. I think Chimaev is going to get the title shot regardless. I mean, he is all the hype right now. Everyone loves this guy. There's just a ton of hype behind him, and I think he goes out there, and this is going to be a key win for him in his career. And props to Gilbert Burns for taking this, because I know there's not a ton of people who want to fight Khamzat Chimaev, other than maybe Neil Magny, but you know kind of where we're going there. So yeah, that's my early pick for this fight: Khamzat Chimaev, second round TKO over Gilbert Burns. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you like this early look show? Again, these will only be for sort of bigger fights that are really, you know, intriguing, interesting, big name fights as well. Like, you're not going to see me preview a prelim fight here as well, but I figure good opportunity to go through the stats, go through their records, all these different things, and give a pick. And this way, I'm not rushed. You guys know I do the preview shows every week. It is a little rushed because I want to get to your questions. I don't want to take too much time on one particular fight. So the pick again, Khamzat Chimaev, second round knockout. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. I'll see you next time, and thanks so much for watching.